Something strange happens when you cross the age of 50. All things you once thought mattered, well, status, possessions, popularity, well, they start to lose the shine. It's not that life becomes less valuable. It's that you finally realize what life really is. Now, I've made a few videos like this on my other channel, my main channel, link in the description. But there's a lot of things that people, especially younger people, don't really understand about older people. And I thought I would try to put some light on that. I don't know if I can or not. Somebody's always going to argue, you're wrong the way you think. Well, I'm going to just tell you the way I think about it. And you might be surprised because you might have some of the very same feelings. Now, a lot of the stuff that mattered to us when we were younger, material possessions, cars, clothes, brand names, well, they don't hold the same weight. You know, reliability and comfort matter more when you get older. Okay, certain things happen to your body. You're not so much wanting a designer pants. You want stuff. You want your sweatpants, stuff that's comfortable, the cozy stuff. You know, you don't have the career ambition that you once had. Chasing promotions or climbing a corporate ladder. None of them things feel as urgent anymore. By the age of 50, if you haven't achieved some sort of success, well, chances are good you're just stuck with being what you are. And after 50, certain things that you dealt with all the time, well, they don't matter so much to you anymore either. You don't like drama. You don't like conflict. Arguments, grudges, proving who's right, who's wrong. That doesn't have any value anymore. Because by the time you've reached 50, you know in your mind if you're right or if you're wrong. And even if you're wrong, you're too old and stubborn to admit it. You stop caring about impressing people. You don't want to do that no more. It has no value. You're going to hear the word value a lot in this video because things lose value. Let me give a good example. As soon as this car passes, because his noise ain't got no value. I remember, you know, when you're younger, you go through a lot of different phases in life. You go through, I don't know, maybe you're in the CB radios for a couple of years. Maybe you're into bowling, you're on a bowling league. And then, you know, before you know it, you're not doing those things anymore and you're into something else. Maybe you bought a boat, you're into fishing, you're into boating, you're into skiing. We go through these phases when we're younger. And I think that's by design. We need to explore things that are around us to see if we enjoy them. That kind of makes who we are. But there's a lot of things that happen when you get up to a certain age that just doesn't have value anymore. And to me, one of those is social status. I could care less about social status, you know, being popular, being there with the in crowd. None of those things have any value. I value my alone time more than anything now, and I enjoy it. And a lot of younger people can't. They see me as a lonely old man, and I am a happy old man, is what I am. Now, I'm 59, so I'll have to start these videos of the over 60 next year. Yeah, that's a whole new thing of content for me. You know, you just value smaller, authentic connections. You've already probably made the friends you've already made for your life, and you'll make more. And a lot of those friends that you've had, some of them could have passed away. I know I've lost quite a few. So me, I like to focus on relaxing now, spending time around my dogs in my home that I've worked on so hard. I hold value in that. Now, here's a big one. And this is where I could differ. Physical appearance. Now, we do know, you reach a point where you realize, hey man, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. But you stop obsessing over being the best looking person at the party, because you're not going to parties. You just start dressing simple. Okay? You're not worried so much about the hair. You're not worried about, if you're a woman, putting all this makeup on. You're just trying to be yourself. And, your health and mobility become more important than your looks. Now, I've recently lost over 100 pounds, and I've changed my appearance drastically. You can go back on either of my channels and see. I always have to say that. It's like I'm getting tired of saying it, but it was an accomplishment that I took on and I did it, and I'm still working on that. I can do nothing about my wrinkles, my aging, my gray hair. That doesn't matter to me. Looking good holds no value. Oh, squirrel, I'm sorry, my dogs, when I see my dogs running, I gotta look. But I'm not gonna go out and buy a bottle of Just for Men hair gel so that my hair can look black. We were talking about that in the barber shop the other day. Nothing looks more ridiculous on an older man than a black or a completely brown beard or hair. He dyed it. You just know he did. Okay? For those of you that are using it, we know about your hair dye. There is no magic secret you have to keep your hair young looking. You're using dye. And dye is for women, okay? It's for women. I'm going to tell you dudes that. And the trivial things that used to have value to you, what your neighbors think, the gossip, they don't hold value anymore. You don't worry so much about what other people say because you don't care what other people do. Relationships. I've got a whole video on that. When you first, I think a lot of the problem is, somebody my age, what reason, if I'm single, what reason would I have to involve myself with a woman and have to go through all the same things initially that I went through as a young man? Now, what happens when you're a young man or a young woman? You meet somebody, you go through that initial phase of love, you're holding hands and you're smooching, and you just look like fools in public, okay, with all the lovey-dovey stuff. Yeah, I don't want to go through that. I'm too old for that. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to go through all the other stuff that's involved, buying flowers and cards. Does it sound selfish? Call it what you want. But I see no value in it. There's no value. I'm not looking to have kids. I'm not looking for a caregiver. I'm not looking for a purse. Once in a while, it'd be nice to have somebody to talk to, but my dogs are real good listeners. Okay? And they listen real well, and sometimes they'll nod their heads. So, that is something that has no value to me. Now, there are people my age that are constantly seeking it. And if you haven't found it, maybe you did find it. Maybe they passed away. The chances of you finding it again that will compare to that person, pretty slim, but it could happen. And you're not so worried anymore about getting achievements, trophies, awards. Look at me accomplishments. None of those matter. They don't have any value to you. What is the value in a plaque of 50 years of service hanging on your wall when you live alone? It has no value to yourself. It would not to me. Even though I've got a few hanging up, but they don't say much. So I guess that's what it boils down to, is what do you value? Like I said, I remember probably 20 years ago, I don't know, you remember the Farmville and the Farm Town craze, where I think they were games on Facebook, and they were actually really fun. You would plant crops, and then you had like 8 hours, 10 hours, some crops, depending on what crops you planted. Well, you had to harvest them, and you had to be there to do it. I can remember yelling at my press crew, We were having a bad night one evening, and I just got mad. I said, man, I got to get home in 2 hours and harvest my pineapples. And I'm going to be very upset if my crop goes to waste. And then I couldn't even tell you why or when. But you just quit playing those games. And you don't remember when you quit playing. You just did. Because you don't value them that much anymore. The value has worn off. And that's the same way with life. You have to take a really good, deep thinking and really determine what you value. Thanks for watching. Happy trails. I value you guys. Yeah.